I think I think it's easy in sport to get sucked into gimmicks. And, you have to stay away from gimmicks. You have to identify those few things that really do make you fast from an equipment point of view. And then really just focus on training.
Disappointed. Denmark only by, not even a quarter of the length of the boat. Australia are coming hard at them. Great Britain just being edged out. Australia may sneak it at the death. Australia are taking over here in lane 5. It's the green and gold who are going for gold. Great Britain too coming up on the shoulder of the Danes. It's a sensational win. South Africa came from
Welcome back to another episode, guys. I'm here with Matt. Matt, thank you for coming over to the podcast. We first met at OCBC Cycle.
I think Matador has one particularly very strong rider known as Matt Britton. So I think we have to watch him very closely. He can go solo and he has a good finishing leg also.
Matt Britton, the legendary Matt Britton, finally he's been on the podium for every single race. Matt, good to finally see you again.
Man, absolutely fantastic race. So, just super well organized, a lot of fun. And you don't often race in pairs, so here they take the average time of the races. And that just brings a whole new tactical dynamic to the event, which is really cool.
And I've got your CV over here, by the way. Thanks for sending it over to me. We've got a lot of questions from Instagram as well, and we'll go through all about you, cycling, and Olympian. But those who are watching and who do not know Matt is a 37-year-old born and raised in South Africa and competed in South Africa for quite a number of years, 2005 to 2012, in rowing. So you were an Olympian in rowing. And you've been living in Singapore since 2018 and only started cycling in 2022 during COVID. A very impressive CV, Matt. Maybe if you could just tell us about yourself and, of course, the history of you with Olympic competitions and rowing.
Yes, so I grew up in South Africa, which is a very sporty country. I think, in rugby and also in endurance sports, we have a very proud tradition, a lot of good sportsmen there. And for me, I really, in 1996, the Olympics was in Atlanta. And I remember the plane taking all the athletes was painted in the South African flag and flew over the country. And when it flew over my house, I said, no, I want to go to the Olympics. And ever since then, I was 8 years old at the time. And I decided, I was going to make that my dream. And I worked really, really hard for 13 years to make that a reality. And eventually I fell in love with the sport of rowing. And one thing led to another. And, there I was it was a bumpy road, but eventually got to the start line in London, the London Olympics in 2012. And we're very fortunate to win that race in 6 minutes of pure pain. So it's a bit different to cycling, but actually a lot of the training was quite similar. A lot of the concepts that I use now are the same that I was training as a rower, and very effective training methods. And after the Olympics, I got injured, and then I got a job and wasn't really doing much sport. And then during COVID, I was finding myself being a little bit too lethargic, so I decided time to do something else and get back into sport. And I've discovered cycling and road cycling and just totally fell in love with the sport and have been having so much fun and still seeming to get better, especially on the tactics.
Yeah, but is rowing something that's very popular in South Africa? Or like, how did you find out that, okay, I'm gonna, rowing is my talent, why not running or, cycling to even begin with?
Yeah, so I did try a lot of sports, especially as a kid. And rowing is a unique sport, a little bit like cycling in that there's so much technique and physiology, and then you need strength, endurance, and technique, and actually in rowing a huge amount of teamwork because you have to keep in sync with your teammates. So that combination was just really well suited to me.
And then you picked up cycling during COVID. Tell me a little bit about that. Like, why cycling during COVID? Why didn't you pick up something else? Like, why cycling in particular?
So I had done a little bit of cycling in the past, and I had a bike, and I thought, okay, well, a good race to enter would be this stage race in South Africa, and that would get me back into shape, kick me back into action. So I entered that race and then started training for it. And when I got back from that, I decided, no, I'm going to enter the Letape. And just one thing led to another. And here I am training 5-6 times a week, trying to do 15 hours a week, which is quite a lot for someone with a job.
And then you do a bit of mountain biking as well, right? Did you start off with mountain biking?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say the roads in Singapore are safe, but they are safer than the roads in South Africa. Mm-hmm. So that was if I wanted to do any riding in South Africa, I always did it on the mountain bike, which is beautiful riding over there. I mean, amazing trails and just such incredible scenery. And then in Singapore, I kind of decided, I got roped into it by my team. I needed to do some road racing, and I didn't realize how cool that would be.
Chris Froome is from South Africa, I think, right?
Yeah, he went to school just down the road from where I grew
really?
up. Yeah.
Are you guys like Facebook friends or something?
No.
Okay, and I know in most people who are watching, probably they know that you've been winning a lot of races here in Singapore. Do you think that the competition here is just too easy for you?
No, I mean, of course not. I think I'm a very, I've got a huge pedigree as an endurance athlete, and I think that helps a lot. And now that I'm training hard, I think it's not unusual for someone like me to be at the top end. I think there's a lot of youngsters now that are coming up, and I think that they will, if they keep training properly, they will definitely be much faster than me in a year or two.
What's the goal for you? Like, what are you trying to achieve out of this?
My main goal is to be healthy, so I really want to just live a healthy lifestyle. So I'm always reminding myself, like, not to be too aggressive in the traffic and just be calm, because very competitive person, and everything's a race in the traffic. Yeah. And but my main goal is to be healthy, and I mean, I just love the racing. I really, really enjoy pushing myself, and like that. The competition in the race is just amazing.
Do you think because you're an Olympian, you had the physique of an athlete, that cycling is kind of, is it relatively easier, or it gives you that cutting edge?
I don't think it's because of. I mean, I don't think I have a natural physique, but I think because I trained so hard for so long as an Olympic athlete. Obviously that's a huge advantage when I started doing cycling. I mean, my cardio system and all that has the benefit of many years of ultra hardcore training. So
training. So just now off camera we were talking about it's just not about training, right? You say it's also the mentality of winning races. It's just not about just putting in the hours. It's that tipping point, isn't it?
Yeah. So I mean, I think so. For my whole journey as a kind of elite sportsman, I was always never satisfied with how I was doing. I was always pushing myself harder and never happy with a session or a race. I could win the race, but I'd still come off and say, this could have been better, and that. And that's just a loser mentality, And I think I realized, no, you actually have to enjoy the moment. You have to celebrate those small wins, and that helps you to become a winner. And so that's a huge part of it, right? You have to structure everything that you do to have a winning mindset. So, for example, when I do my interval sessions now, I never want to feel like I'm hanging on for dear life in those last few. I always start a little bit easier and then do them incrementally harder, not because of the physiology, but because you put yourself in a very strong mental place when you are doing it better. Each piece is a little faster than the previous one. And that's how you change your neural pathways to being a winner.
So aside from training, so let's take me for example. I'm just a weekend rider. How do I be a Matt Britton? Like how do I change that mindset, and how do I get there?
Yeah, I think you've got to start with what your goals are, and you have to be realistic about how much effort it's going to take to get there. So if you want to win the Singapore national champs, then you're going to have to train, 20 hours a week, and it's going to have to be 20 very high quality hours. So for me, you have to do a mix of like base training, like longer rides at an easier tempo, and then, you know, make sure you're doing plenty of these like VO2 max sessions, like 5 minutes as hard as you can, and you do that like 4 times maybe.
So how's your training schedule like? Give me a picture of like a week. I know you've got a job and everything. How does it look like for you?
Yeah, so I try and do 15 hours or 500 Ks per week. And yeah, I'm not so good at it, but I really try to do a minimum of 400 kilometers, and then 500 is kind of my goal. And I spread that out, so I want most of this riding, to 80% of it, to be what I call zone 2. So zone 2 is kind of that edge where you can still have a conversation with someone, but you can't just chat. So I don't want it to be too easy. I see a lot of people here ride at a very low intensity. They do like a lot of hours, but their speed is very slow, and they're just chatting, and they're not really pushing themselves. So even I never do like recovery rides or coffee rides or any of that. I just always do it at a reasonably hard intensity, like the top end of my kind of base zone, and that's like 80% of my training. Then the other 20, I try and do these like really hard. So I want to do like 4 by 4 minute pieces, where I'm doing them like right at what I can do. Like tomorrow I've got 5 times 6 minutes, and I'll do them like above my FTP. So most people know what the FTP is, and I'll be doing those above my FTP. And the last one, I really crank it as hard as I can. And then I always throw in a few sprints in the week as well.
How did you get to know all of this structured training and all this? Is this something that you researched on your own, or you had a trainer?
Well, for rowing, I had the benefit of a fantastic physiologist who was setting the program, and a coach, and some of the best sports scientists in the world that were working on our team. So they structured a similar kind of program, and then since I started cycling, I've just been reading a lot about it and trying to remember how we used to train, and I've chatted to my old coaches.
So how are you liking cycling so far? This might sound like a very stupid question, but...
No, I'm in love with the sport. I think it's amazing. It's got so many elements. You've got that social element where you can chat to your friends. It's super hard physically. And and the racing is there's just so much in it from a tactical point of view. How do you identify those critical moments and, take advantage of your opponent's tactics? And it's just so much going on. How do they try and disrupt your plans? How are you going to react? So, it's just mentally, it's like a real game of chess out there. Yeah,
and you ride for Matador, the racing team here in Singapore. I'm not sure if you can reveal the strategy. Like, so how is it like? So take, for example, Letape. I know you came in second. How are you guys communicating with one another? Do you guys prepare for the race, or do you just turn up for the race and then we'll just go by feel?
Yeah, I think some of the other teams maybe have a more structured race plan. But for us, I think we try and... everyone in the team has to contribute at least once during the race to just something. And so if you're a weaker rider, then maybe you're just like you're just chasing back one breakaway, or you're just causing some chaos in the beginning by attacking or doing something like that. And if you're a stronger rider, then we just all try and participate in the race. We don't want to just sit in the peloton. But yeah, of course, every now and then we say, okay, we're going to attack at this point, and we try and get like 3 or 4 of us together, and we'll do that. Or the racing at this level is not it's not like the Tour de France where you have like 9 of your teammates and they just go on the front and just burn themselves out. We all here to race for ourselves, and try and get the balance right.
And is nutrition something that you're very cautious about? Are you very cautious, like, what do I eat today? High carb, yada, 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 and on the bike?
So in a race, nutrition is absolutely critical. If you get your nutrition wrong, like no amount of training is going to save you. Like you just have to get it right. And you have to eat a lot. A huge amount of carbs, a minimum of 60 grams of carbs per hour, I would say, is what you have to be eating out there in the race. For training and for life, I'm not a good role model from that.
So what do you bring on the bike when you're racing? Like, what are you eating and what are you drinking?
Yeah, so I take we use the Tailwind nutrition. So that's they've got a great powder that I put in my water bottles, and they've got some of these ammo gels, and I just smash that, and I just try and get the mix right. A couple of bananas and cramp fix as well, because I sweat quite a bit, especially here in the tropics. So yeah, you got to make sure you're keeping that salt right.
Yeah. The interesting story of how I knew you, I mean, I knew your name. I've heard of your name here in Singapore, but it's because of Gary. So Gary did the bike fit for you, and he was telling me a very funny story. He said, Matt came into the fit, and his bike setup was all haywire. His seat post was so low. He didn't have a proper bike fit, and I was joking. I was like, what? How is that possible? He's still winning a lot of races. And at one point, I think he said that the seat post was even stuck, and you guys had to yank it out of the bike.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I was, I think it's easy in sport to get sucked into gimmicks, and you have to stay away from gimmicks. You have to identify those few things that really do make you fast from an equipment point of view, and then really just focus on training. And you have to train hard and train volume, and that's way more important than having just little funny extra things, right? So to my detriment, I think I ignore some very important things, like, for example, the bike fit.
Yeah.
And when I got the bike fit, then I felt a lot better afterwards. So I was very glad when I did eventually get that. But I mean, even when I changed between my different bikes, then they're like a bit different and stuff. And I think that's also a useful skill, right? I don't want to have just everything exactly the same and then one thing slightly out. You become unadaptable if everything's always perfect, right? So, I do my mountain biking, so you build up different muscles and, yeah. But then this one now is set up right.
So my channel, we've got a lot of fancy bikes here, and you were just saying that focus on training, not material. I mean, the equipment is not that important, right? What was your first road bike that you got?
My first road bike was a Swift, and I still got it here in Singapore, and I got it from one of my teammates. So I was just training for mountain biking, and then rode with some Matador guys at the mountain bike, and they said, "Oh, come and join us for this 300k." Ride called the Audax. So I thought, great excuse. I don't have a road bike. And they said, no problem. I was like, oh, damn. Should have come up with a better reason. And they lent me this Swift, and eventually I bought it from my teammate, Mikhail. And love that bike. But yeah, that's my first road bike.
Okay, and then is this the second one?
And this is my second one, yeah.
How long have you owned this bike?
1 year.
Okay, and why a Canyon specifically?
Well, I bought the Canyon because it's very good value for money. And I also like the way Matthew van der Poel races. And I mainly bought it because I like the paint job.
Oh, yeah. Tell us about the paint job, this one.
Yeah, so actually this is the same. So the ladies' team is called Canyon SRAM. And they had this as their bike from last year. And there was a period of time where you could buy the same bike that they had, and I just think it looks cool. So
yeah, and you just bought it online from the Canyon website.
Yeah.
Okay, and could you just run us through the setup that you have over here? I think a lot of bike geeks on my channel would like to know.
Yeah, so I was so it's a Canyon Aeroad, and in Asia, where I'm riding here in Singapore and Malaysia, it's pretty flat. So you want an aero setup. I think that is very, very key. I'm not doing climbing races, and I actually noticed that even in the Tour de France, most of them are riding this Aeroad. They're not riding the climbing version of the Canyon. They're riding the aerodynamic version. So clearly, this is a bike, even though it's a little bit heavier. It's like 7 and a bit kilos, and then it's got the SRAM Red group set, which is, I was a bit nervous to get the SRAM because everyone was saying, oh no, Shimano. But I love the SRAM. To me, it's much better as an amateur because you can take the battery out and, you've got this app that you can see what's going on and which one is working. And if something is wrong with one shifter, you can actually recode it with your phone so that you can just use the left-hand shifter to do the job. just to get you home. Obviously, you can't race like that. But
Yeah.
so I just find it a bit more. I don't have a mechanic looking at my bike every single day, so sometimes I need to be able to like sort stuff out myself on the road. So I ride with a spare battery. If something goes wrong with the battery, I can just replace it.
Yep.
So yeah, very happy with that. And then obviously the big custom job that I've done on my bike is I've got the Wheel Angel Aero wheels on this. And I met Andy, who's the Wheel Angel guy. After I destroyed a set of rims on my previous bike riding, I melted the carbon down a downhill in the wet.
Was it a rim brake?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It was terrifying, I tell you. That was scary. But yes, I met him after that. And then, I've been, so now all my bikes have his awesome wheels on them.
Yeah.
So these are 60 mil deep. And I think you could actually even go deeper. Like, it was the one thing that I put on the bike where I felt it was way faster. So I had these very shallow, light climbing wheels, and I would do TMCR at a certain speed. And then the day I got these wheels, it was massively faster when I got the deep section wheels, which is interesting because, when I got the Canyon bike, I was thinking it was going to be so much faster than the Swift bike. And it felt the same, right? So, I mean, I think it is a little bit faster when I do my tests, but it's not much. But when I got the wheels, it was like way faster to get those deep section wheels.
Yeah, I always tell people like the biggest upgrade is the wheels. Just get deep wheels. If you're going flat out, you will feel the difference.
I agree. Because, here we sweat as well, like quite a lot. I got these super hardcore hubs, which are the Chris King hubs. So I think apparently they are bulletproof, and I can test that I've done some pretty hard miles on them.
Yeah, and the rest of the items are pretty stock, right? There's nothing much that you've made.
Yeah, it's the standard seat and aero cockpit, which is very nice.
Yeah.
I have the handlebars set as narrow as they can go, so it's quite a cool feature that they can adjust, but I just have them narrow. Yeah. And I'd be happy to have them even narrower if they could.
How narrow would you want them to go?
I don't know, like time trial narrow.
Do you have a time trial bike?
I don't have a TT bike,
okay.
But I've put TT bars on this, and it's a good setup.
Okay. And tires, you're running the Vittoria Corsa Pros.
Yeah, so those are the most common tires, I think, in the Pro Peloton. And I'm very happy with them. They're super. They don't last that long. They're like proper race tires. On my training bike, I have some bulletproof, also Vittorias, but not the race ones.
Okay. What would your dream bike be? If money was not an issue.
I think this one is pretty close to my dream bike. I'm really, really happy with that.
Yeah.
I also like the Colnago.
Okay.
But I like the interesting bike, right? I think I just want something that looks super cool.
Right. It looks like a fantastic bike. By the way, your wife, Alicia, as well, I think she's a very accomplished cyclist as well.
Yeah, and she really, she's become a fantastic cyclist over the last couple of years, and she really doesn't come from like the same sporting history that I had. So yeah, pretty interesting that it just proves my training program is a good one. You got to train hard.
Maybe you got to sell some of your training programs here.
Yeah, I won't sell it, but anyone can ask me and I'll send it to them. Yeah.
Okay, cool. We've got a couple of questions on Instagram. Maybe we'll just take a 5-minute break.
Yes, sure.
Okay, yeah.
Transform your cycling experience with the Cyc Plus AS2 Pro and AS2 Pro Max e-pumps today. Say goodbye to manual pumping. The Cyc Plus AS2 Pro and AS2 Pro Max is an ultra portable with aluminum alloy body. It inflates two 25C tires from 0 to 80 psi on a single charge and fits both Presta and Shutter valve effortlessly. Featuring a digital built-in gauge, you get a precise pressure readings every time. The AS2 Pro Max offers even faster inflation and enhanced performance, making it the reliable choice for serious cyclists. Join cyclists worldwide who trust Cyc Plus and enjoy worldwide shipping straight to your door. Plus, use my promo code OLC for an exclusive 10% discount. The Cyc Plus AS2 Pro and AS2 Pro Max are the cheapest on the market with this offer. Don't miss out and upgrade your ride with Cyc Plus today. Visit cycplus.com now and use my promo code OLC for your discount.
Okay, so we've got some Instagram Q&As that you guys have submitted for Matt. Matt, are you ready? You've not seen any of these questions. The first question is, you're spoiling the Singapore market. No one can beat an Olympic gold medalist here.
I think for sure the athletes here can beat me. I think there's a youngster in the Matador team. His name is Will Mitchell, who's a really up and coming beast. I think he's gonna be beating me pretty soon, and also a lot of juniors, especially at the Mavericks and our fan in the Matadors, also very, very talented. So I think anyone who trains really hard when I was rowing at the Olympics, I trained like 30 to 35 hours a week.
Wow.
And if you think about how much that is on a day, it's like 5 hours a day. And we trained 3 times one day, twice the next day, 3 times twice, 3 times twice. And we only got 1 day off every 5th week. So you can just imagine like how much training I've got inside me. And I think that's what these youngsters need to do as well, right? They need to, if they want to beat me, well, firstly, I think they're really already as close or right there, right? It's like, but that's what they have to do, right? They have to train like that big volume and train hard. Like it's not just about coffee rides.
Don't be lazy and...
Yeah, it's like quality miles, right? Where you're really pushing yourself.
I interviewed this Malaysian Olympian. His name is Josiah. He was a Malaysian track Olympian, and he says, if I'm quoting him correctly or referencing him correctly, he said that because of the mindset that the Olympian goes through, it's so rigorous that it kind of messes up with their mentality. Do you think that's the case, in a bad way or a good way?
Look, it's very stressful to go to the Olympics. You know it's your one chance to perform and to live that dream, and you can easily make it like too big. And so I always try to, I think I got a lot of that mental strength comes from actually just making it less than it is, right? So I try and always play down just the same as if I go to a race, I'm like, same as training. And actually learned this when I was young. My first World Champs, I thought, World Champs, I'm going to be all excited for it and I'm going to want it more and I'm going to be faster. Because it's a World Champs, I'll be 10 seconds faster. And guess what? I got exactly the same time at my World Champs as I had back in training. And I learned an important lesson. Like, if you want to be fast at the World Champs, you got to be fast every day. It's not about, if you can get a few extra on peaking, it's a bonus. But the way you wake up on the day of your big race is the same that you're going to wake up. You have to wake up that way every day because you can't wake up a different person, right? You have to slowly improve yourself to be how you want to be on the big day. And so I think that mentality, so I try and play down the big events and just focus on making sure my daily training and routine is at a high standard.
So right now, do you take any breaks at all? Are you always like cycling every day?
No, I mean, I'm not the most disciplined athlete. Like, I have these great weeks where I don't have that much, where my work is manageable and I can really just do huge volume of training and get my 500 Ks. But I mean, plenty of times it's I'm lazy or hungover or I mean, I'm not. I rely a lot on my heritage of history training training more than my current discipline routine.
All right. Yeah. The next question is, why do you think doping is so is a big stigma in cycling while it's pretty much tolerated amongst people who goes to the gym, for example?
Well, look, I think as if you're going to the gym and you want to do it for looking good and stuff, then that's on you, right? You're not stealing something from other people. So I feel that it's a zero tolerance. In fact, I think the punishments should be way harsher. Like, why not lifetime ban for anyone? And why not? I mean, people should have a jail sentence for it because it's theft, right?
Yeah.
Now, why do I think cycling has more doping than other sports? I think, well, obviously, there's the financial incentive and the effect that the drugs have on you. But I think the real problem is that cycling is a sport where you're rewarded for being devious, right? If you're a junior and you want to get onto that team, how do you win a race in cycling? You have to get to the finish line with fresher legs than the guy next to you. And one way is to train harder, but the other way is to just be in his draft, to just do that little bit less, so that when you get to the finish line, you're stronger. And so if you're like a junior, or, you know, how do you might be winning races and getting recognized and getting put into the pro team, not because you're better than the guy who came second, but because you're just that bit more devious. And so I think you're kind of building this kind of culture of like kind of nasty people really in that pro peloton. And and I think that's where it is like at its core. Whereas a lot of other sports are not like that, right?
Yeah.
They're like more collaborative and more team and stuff, yeah.
Do you think like the World Tour guys are probably doping right now? They're just not getting caught, right?
I mean, it was like, I used to watch the Tour de France and I used to love Lance Armstrong, and when he got caught for drugs, it was a terrible thing for me because I always idolized him. And yeah, I mean, what I do, you know, like even in this race, I think Pogacar didn't beat Pantani's time up one of the big climbs, despite the huge improvements in nutrition, the huge improvements in bike technology, the huge improvements in training and professionalizing of training. So you'd think, well, it's obviously there must be less drugs than there was, but I have to, I mean, I can't comment on it, right? I know nothing, yeah.
Okay.
They are impressive athletes as well, right? They train so hard, and I mean, I think it's easy to say, oh, they're that good because maybe they're doping, but I mean, I don't think so. I think it's also that they just train like animals and they're just
really strong.
Good. Yeah.
Okay, the next question is from our guy behind the camera. He says, he's asking, how would you encourage someone to start racing?
Yeah, so, I mean, this is something I feel like South Africa, Singapore could learn from South Africa here. I mean, South Africa, just regular races, like everyone shows up. They don't really care where they come. They just arrive at the race and just do it, and they just participate. And so just a normal race on a Saturday will have like 1,000 people, like 2,000 people will just show up. All of the biggest mass participation races in the world are in South Africa, most of them. So like where like 40,000 cyclists will come out. And so I think Singapore people just need to just go to the start line. It doesn't matter if you know, how badly you do. You just have to go there and you have to dip your toe in.
Do you think there's just a lack of races here in Singapore? The fact that Singapore is just too small?
I think it's a chicken and egg, right? There'll be more races if there was more people participating in the race, and it made it more lucrative for a sponsor to come on board or for the organizer to kind of put the race together. Yeah.
You know Letape Melaka. I'm not sure if you know Roman. He rides with Methodol as well. And he said that he couldn't join the Letape Melaka. And I haven't joined a race in a very long time, and I'm like, okay, I'll take your BF. I'll go down to Melaka, and I went, and I didn't know what the course was like, what's the distance, and he signed up for the elite race, and I'm like, crap, I don't think I can join the elite race. Looking at my physique and my training plan, but you know, heck it, I said I'm just gonna go. If I get dropped, I'll just wait for the non-competitive wave to come and sweep me. But after the race, I think I managed. My objective was to finish the race without getting dropped and hold on to the peloton. And I really enjoyed the race at the end of it. And after that, I signed up for so many races in Malaysia.
Exactly, man. And see, that's it, right? You got to just dive in and just not have too big a fear of failure.
Yeah, I think it's the fear of failure that most people have, and myself included. When I went for Letape, right, I'm just like, oh, what if I get dropped? Am I going to finish? I'll look like an embarrassment, you know. So I think it's always that fear.
Yeah, it's so. I mean, and also you don't have to join the 140k race, right? There's a 60k race, which is really cool, and I mean, with a little bit of training, anyone can do that Letape and really enjoy it. And that's a great race, really a great race.
And the Letape Melaka, I just want to come back to that. I saw the finishing. You were just a couple of seconds behind the Malaysian guy who came in, who crossed the finish line. First, what happened?
Oh, that was a very upsetting race. I mean, so I was really super strong that race. I just had like amazing legs from a few weeks before we had been racing, and it just was crushing it in that race. But this guy, I couldn't shake him, and he he didn't really do that much on the front, and then especially like the last like 30 Ks, it was just me like pulling the whole time on the front. And I should have tried harder to shake him off, but I couldn't get rid of him. And man, and then I thought, okay, well, he's obviously very tired and he won't be able to because each time I tried to, I could just feel like I was just about ready to snap it. So I thought, okay, well, if it comes down to a sprint, like I'll just do that, and then at least he won't be able to beat me in the sprint. But that's a kind of cocky thinking that gets you punished.
But you said you were pulling most of the time in the front. So what was the strategy to do a breakaway, or why did you just sit behind his wheel?
So I was in the peloton, and there was quite a big breakaway ahead, and then I broke away from the peloton and bridged to the breakaway, and he came with me for that. But there were a few other people as well at that stage, and no one really wanted to kind of work that much, so I had to keep attacking, and I carried on attacking even when we caught the breakaway, just to kind of thin the group out. But he was the one guy who just didn't get dropped, right? And then once we got on our own, I thought, okay, well, we've got like 40 Ks to go, we better really hammer it now to get the gap. And he did do a couple of turns there, but yeah, just like not really that much. And then I was still thinking about getting caught, and I should have just risked it and said, well, you know what? We either work together and we go together, or we both get caught, and then that's it. Because you have to risk losing to win a race, and I wasn't there, and so I lost because I was too precious about it. Right?
Was he a lone ranger, or he had a team?
He didn't have a team, not that I was aware of. Yeah. Okay. But I think he's an ex-pro or something. I found out later, but he was a good rider. I mean, he was good.
So
smart.
When I was in the race as well, so I was in I think it was the third or fourth peloton in that elite race, and I was coming quite close to the front, and I see a bunch of guys pulling the peloton. But I wanted to help out, but I'm like, if I help out now, I'm probably going to drain my legs. I might as well just continue drafting. At the end of the day, for me, I'm not trying to be number one, right? So I just kept drafting everyone all the way to the end, and I just kind of finished it. I didn't bother wanting to pull the peloton.
Yeah, I mean, you have to decide how much work you're going to do, and how smart it is to do that work. You don't want to just drag everyone else, but you also don't want to get to the finish line with fresh legs, because that's just annoying.
Oh, this is an interesting one. Why is pro racing so... Oh, I don't know if I can ask this question. So white male dominated. Why aren't there any Asian racing?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. If you go and race in Thailand, you'll see all these amazing youngsters there that are just absolutely flying up the hills. But I think, look, all sports are dominated by the areas where they have a proud heritage, right? So if you grow up in Belgium's a country with like a handful of people, and yet it's super dominant in the sport of cycling. If you go and look at any records, like most wins across all cycling disciplines, Belgium stands amongst the best in the world, even though it's a tiny country, right? And it's because kids grow up there doing cycling. They believe it's like their blood. It's like South Africa's good at rugby because when you're a kid, you play rugby. If you are in Kenya, you'll be a good runner, right? So why is it that Europeans are good at cycling? I think it's just because there's more of it there. They're more exposed. But yeah, I'm definitely not a believer in, and I mean, my example of rowing in South Africa, it's like one of the driest countries in the world, and yet we did well. So it's just about what you do with your talent, I don't think it's really an endowment problem.
Okay. The last question before we wrap this up, about your bike. Do you think is getting parts availability a deterring factor for you getting another Canyon in the future because they do direct to consumer?
No, I don't think so. I think I really like the Canyon. Getting the parts, it's all been fine so far.
Okay, cool. Matt, thank you so much. Thanks for sharing your insights. Is there anything else you would like to mention on the podcast before I wrap this up?
No, I think it's been really fun, and I'm very approachable. If anyone wants to chat to me, they're welcome to reach out, and I'd be happy to go for a ride or answer any questions, share my program, whatever it is. Yeah,
thank you, Matt, and that's it. Thank you so much.
Cool.
Lullaby, still in my head. Bloodshot Tell me why you left me bleeding.